Welcome to the Floyd Memorial Library podcast, where we sit down with the people who give shape, texture, and voice to life on the North Fork of Long Island. Some are rooted here by generations, others arrived by chance or choice, but all carry with them a piece of the story. We talk about what's changing, what's worth holding on to, and the currents of history, both quiet and loud, that run through this place. I'm your host, Christopher Bianchi, and for episode 209, we sit down with Walter Chute Jr., whose family's roots in Greenport go back generations, including the legacy of the Wood Chute Shipyard. In this conversation, Walter reflects on growing up in a village shaped by boats, shipyards, and a close-knit waterfront community. He shares memories of his childhood in Greenport, school days, neighborhood life, and the places that define the village when he was young. We also talk about his lifelong love for boats and motors, a passion that would eventually lead him to Niagara Falls, where he now runs Chute Marine and maintains an impressive collection of engines he restores and works on. Walter reflects on the changes he's seen in the village over the decades and why he continues to return each year for the Maritime Festival and to meet with other friends and family. It's a look back at a Greenport that's changed, endured, and left a lasting imprint on those who grew up here. So I hope you enjoy episode 209 with Walter Chute Jr. This episode was recorded September 22nd, 2025. Thank you so much for coming on the Floyd Memorial Library podcast today. It's really great to have you on today.
Thank you.
And so in the beginning, I usually like to start off with if you can tell us where you were born and raised.
Okay. I was born and raised in Greenport, right here, and I was born in a vehicle. I'd had trouble getting my birth certificate because they took me to the hospital after, and my name is Walter Richard Chute Jr., but everybody in Greenport calls me Richie. And I graduated Greenport High School. And growing up in Greenport was great because we had all friends. We're still good friends today, people that are alive. And there was two things you knew in Greenport. The fire whistle, and when the lights went out, you were home.
Yes.
The fire whistle, you were left for lunch, whatever. And when the lights went out, you usually were home when you were younger, except for we had bicycles and stuff, and we used to race around town and all that stuff. It was a fishing village, so my neighbors, we used to always go to the railroad dock and catch swellbellies, which were a junk fish at the time. Then all of a sudden, people started enjoying them. Now I guess they're just about extinct today. And as far as growing up in Greenport, I was brought up on 2nd Street at first. Then my mom got sick, so I started moving in with my grandmother. That's by Harry Bubb's old gas station. And that was Mary Tadowski and Walter Tadowski. They were Polish immigrants, and when I used to go shopping with my grandmother and stuff like that, she couldn't speak very good English, and I used to help her out with shopping and stuff like that. And they had a chicken farm out there, and they raised chickens and stuff. And it was very laid back, You know what I mean? So then after my mother got sick, that's why I had to go there, because my brother and I, we split up families. And Jimmy, my brother Jimmy Chute, he went to Center Street, Greenport, 220 Center Street. And eventually I moved back into the Center Street too. Mm-hmm. Went to Greenport High School, graduated, played football and track, all the sports. And I worked for Porky's Restaurant and as first dishwasher, and I worked with my uncle Vincent Tadowski there, and Richard Sajeski and Mr. Walter Sajeski. They were great bosses for a young kid like me. I worked there 1 year, then I went to work for the South Hole Fishing Station, and I did that right up until I left town. Mm-hmm. And I went to North Tonawanda, New York, and I worked for General Motors out there. But as far as Greenport growing up, it was just fabulous. I mean, it was, everybody knew each other. And it wasn't like today, you go down the street. I met 3 people I knew, and that was it. There's nobody around here that I grew up with, just a few people. And I used to go out on the Boyan boat with Bo and watch oysters at night. And then that was, when I turned 15, 16 years old, it was, I was never home. I was on the boat at night with Bo, or else I was with Mr. and Mrs. Holtz over here. It's just a laid-back area,
Yes. And just to go back, how far back does your family go in this area?
All right. They come across from Connecticut, from Nova Scotia, Connecticut to here, probably around 1908 or something like that. And then they started Wood Chute Shipyard, which I just found out about probably 15 years ago. I don't understand why my family never talked about it. My mother, my father, my grandmothers, But my grandmother was deaf. When I lived with her on Center Street, she had some kind of polio or something and messed her ears up. And then she moved to Orient Point. And Margaret used to work. That's my Aunt Margaret, Alec. She used to work for the phone company here in this building. Now I think it's the main office for Greenport. And then my cousin Peggy and that, there was Peggy, that was my cousin, and Jimmy and I lived in Center Street. It was tough, families had to do what they had to do today. It wasn't all this welfare and stuff like that they have today. I remember my dad used to get cheese and powdered milk and stuff like that. We survived on it. Plus, he worked in the shipyards around here for all his life.
Wow.
He worked for Goldsmith for 24 years. Then he went up to New Suffolk Shipyard where they made the first Holland submarine. He worked there till he passed away. My Uncle Stanley, that's Tadowski, that lived with us when I lived on by Harry Bubb. He was on an oyster boat here in Greenport, and he fell off and drowned. Then I have a brother that was on the Elizabeth Ashley. He was out there at the George's Banks, and he fell off, and they never found his body. And I talked to Carlos de Jesus yesterday. He was on the boat with him. I didn't even know that. I knew the other people were on the boat, but I didn't know Carlos was on it. And when we started doing research, Carlos and Pat Nelson have been helping us with all the research. And there's a lady in Connecticut. She's been helping us, Emma Crabb. She's a friend of mine from the Outboard Motor Club, which I'm a member. And she's been doing all kinds of research, like Patty and my brother Joey in Florida. He's paraplegic now. He's in a bad car accident, and he sits around all day and he just has nothing to do but research. So he found a lot of stuff for us. I mean, if you've seen our display at the Maritime show the last 2 years, all that stuff has been just found because of this computer system today is just great.
Yes, no, definitely. And actually, I think because you said are you related to the Harry Bubb family?
No, we lived right there. I always hanged around the gas station, and I remember his son, and he was like a father. My dad worked so much. Either he was scalloping, or we were scalloping. I did scalloping with my dad when we were younger. I was at the gas station, and I learned little trades there. Mr. Bubb, he used to help us and everything else. And that's another thing, too, like the Gafka motor, that was Harry Bubb was there, his dad, and my Alfred Hansen was involved in that. That's all my relatives. I didn't realize it. I told Mr. DeJesus yesterday about the boat for Bishop. They made bigger boats than the wooden chutes right here in Greenport too, and I'm going to do research on that next.
Yes,
that's by the hospital. The Bishop Shipyard was by the hospital, and Patty and I have been doing research on some of the boats there, but it's vague, so we're working on that.
Yes, No, but I said that because we actually had Harry Bub Jr. on to talk about growing up in Greenport as well.
Did he tell you about his pickup truck?
I think he talked about some cars and driving
Okay, let me
around.
tell you a story about his pickup truck. His pickup truck, on a back tailgate, he put on there, all hot woman, put your butts in here. He meant cigarette butts. He had a picture of a cigarette there.
Yeah.
And that was the talk of the town for years.
Huh.
And everybody knows that I own a 1947 Pontiac. And two people in this Greenport I want to give thanks to is Paul Stoutenberg and Coach Jackson. When I moved from here I left here in 1966 on a honeymoon, and I went to Niagara Falls, and I had relatives in North Tonawanda, so I was at their house with my wife, and they just suggested I stay here and apply for General Motors. Well, being a young kid, I didn't know much about stuff about making. They didn't teach us how to make applications out, school and stuff like that. So they said who to put down for a reference. I didn't know anybody. I mean, in Greenport, who are you going to put for a reference? So I put down Mr. Jackson, and I put Paul Stoutenberg. And they gave me I went there on Wednesday for an interview, put the paperwork, and they called me on Friday, take a physical. I was working that Monday. So that I never come back except to visit my relatives. We lived up in North Tonawanda with bare minimum stuff. We had our suitcases and stuff. Then the first chance I could, I come back here and picked up some stuff and went back with a trailer. But as far as Greenport, you couldn't beat Paul Stoutenberg, because my 47 Pontiac, I took it into. You couldn't do that today. I took it into shop class. We pulled the motor out, put a motor in. Riding around Greenport with no fenders on it, just a motor and a radiator, and the state police stopped me, and he says, "You got to have the car is legal. We don't need headlights." Back then they didn't do it like they do today. He says, "But you must bolt your front license plate on." I had it just white on with coat hangers, stuff like that. But we used to always go down to where the power building is, right now where it's the park where they had the jump for the kids and the bicycle trails over there.
Yes.
That was our eighth of a mile drag race.
Okay.
And we did that many times. and the cops, they didn't bother us. We didn't make a lot of noise and stuff, and they were just kids. We had Shelter Island guys, Dave Holtz and those people that come around. They all had fast cars. We didn't go 100 miles an hour. Luckily, we made 60 miles an hour going down those high-speed lane there. And every time I come to Greenport, I have to make one run down that lane. And anything else as far as fishing and stuff like that, my dad, during scallop season, I don't know, it's like up in Buffalo. The first day they stopped doing planting and stuff like that, the kids get off of school. I don't think there was anybody that worked on the bay. Their kids worked on the scallops the first opening day. I missed school almost every day, and I had pretty good attendance. Even today, I try to be on time on stuff. It's just the way you build your life. It's they call it shoot 30 in my family. I try to be ahead of everything 30 minutes ahead of time.
But was that your first job?
No, actually, my first job was delivering newspapers on 5th and 6th Avenue here.
Okay.
And then when I first got working papers, I worked for Porky's.
Yes.
Then I went to South Hole Marine Center. But even then, during scallop season, everybody just took off and went scalloping the first couple of days, because that's after that, everybody gets you 10 bushels and stuff. I can tell you a story about scalloping. This was before I was. This was even before I was working with these people. Before I had working papers, I was scalloping in Orient Point, and northeast wind come in. My Aunt Margaret lived in Orient Point when she married Carl King, and my father and her had a big argument. So I was out there scalloping my dad, and we had 10 bushels of scallops. Northeast winds come in right by the bug light, which we were scalloping. So we threw the scallops over. We were going to sink. We went, it was cold. We went, beached the boat, and we went to the phone booth in that area where the big pier is for the Orient Yacht Club, I guess it is.
Mm-hmm.
And my father, I said, let's go to see Aunt Margaret. Let's get warm. He says, no. We went in a phone booth, called my mom, and we hugged until she got there with the pickup truck to pick us up.
Wow.
I mean, I guess it's bullheaded for the chutes, I guess. Patty's got the same things. All my kids have it. I call them one way.
Yes.
But as far as growing up in Greenport, you couldn't grow up in a better town, believe me. I mean, as far as years ago, you could walk down the streets at night and nobody bother you, you know. And there was the little store in Greenport, Rouse's.
Rouse's.
It was right across from the movies. We all used to go from, like on a Friday night, you go to the front of Rouse's and then go to the movies.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you a little story about that. My friend Larry Lackwood, he was a heavy smoker. This is one thing I thank God that Coach Jackson did. One class, he had all us boys in the gym. He lit up a cigarette, took a napkin and blew into it. Mm-hmm. And he showed us that big yellow stain. He says, this is my lungs. Don't smoke and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So, believe it or not, I went to court to this one time and people didn't believe me. They said, do you smoke? I says, no, sir. I had one cigarette my whole life. He says, what do you mean? I says, I was in front of Rouse's store. Larry gave me a cigarette, and I tried to smoke it, and I got sick. I forgot about it. I haven't smoked a cigarette since then. I never had a cigarette. That's one of the lessons that you learn in Greenport. You know, I mean, the coaches and the teachers. Mrs. Hanf. I wasn't a good student. You know, I didn't pay attention. And I had too many other things on my mind.
Yeah.
Boats. I fixed motors and stuff like that, and with my dad. And I was in her class, and I was leaning back, and the chair kicked out from under me. And Mrs. Hamp, she took me out in the hall. She said, you're never going to graduate school. You never make anything of yourself. I said, Mrs. Hamp, I'll do all right. She says, I'll bet you $100 you'll never graduate school. When I graduated school, she walked up to me and gave me a $100 bill.
Wow.
And I played football with the Hamp boy. He had a little arm. You know, it wasn't normal. And the football, I think that it structured my life as far as being what you had to do in life, because you're on time, you play, and stuff like camaraderie. Because I still have, like Lionel Wilson, there's a lot of kids that still keep in touch with me. And it wasn't before it was after Facebook. I found a lot of people like Johnny Wells. You know, he was a famous basketball player here in Greenport and a football player. Mm-hmm. And Sonny Morris was my good friend. And I can tell you a story about that. Sonny Morris was African American. Mm-hmm. Larry was a white Russian, and they called me the White Pollock. And Larry had a 47 Plymouth coupe. And Larry was a bayman too, just like the rest of us. So we had to take the trunk off, make a wood box, and make it a pickup truck so he can put his stuff in there for scalloping and stuff. Then during the summer, we would use that vehicle, you know, for just everyday use. Mm-hmm. Well, the transmission went out on it. So those three was in Larry's yard working on the car, and I was down underneath, and we were picking the transmission out, and Sonny dropped it on him, pinched his finger, and And he was yelling and screaming, and I yelled at him, and I said some bad words to him, that you wouldn't say today,
Yeah.
the N word. And he pulled me out from under the car. We had a big fight,
Mm-hmm.
and then we went separated, and I went home. My mother says, "What happened to you?" I says, "Well, Sonny and I had a little argument." So next day, he's knocking on the door for us to walk to school again. I mean, it was like, you just forget things. You fight and forget it, shake hands, and it was done.
Yes.
Today, there'd be somebody pulling a knife and stabbing you, stuff like that. Another time, like I said, Dave Holtz was a good friend of ours, too, from Shelter Island.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Holtz, myself, and Larry Lockwood went on buying a motorcycle together.
Mm-hmm.
We got it at Riverhead. My dad was a motorcyclist. They went all over Connecticut and stuff on hill climbs and stuff like that. And we got this motorcycle, and my dad helped us get it running. And we used to take it to Moore's Woods all the time. There was big trails in Moore's Woods. And, of course, we all knew Moore's Woods because of I lived there with my bocce there. We used to run it up and down and stuff like that. I'll never forget the one time Ducky Miller was chasing us. He's a police officer from Greenport. And we went into the middle of the farm field. We laid the bike over. He looked for us for hours. We just waited till the next day, went back and got the bike. And what happened to that motorcycle was we were at Larry's house with it, and we're trying to start it, and it actually backfired and had a gas leak and caught a fire and burnt. Mm-hmm. That bike it was junked after that. Mm-hmm. And there's so many stories like that from us growing up, like in Greenport, Gold Pond. We used to always go to Gold Pond, and then we'd swim there. Of course, there wasn't that many houses there at the time and stuff. And we'd catch those blue crabs and stuff like that. And every certain time of year, there was we'd always have a family get together there, and we still do today if we can. We go to Gold Pond, and I have pictures at home back from probably the 20s. And it's funny because we identified everybody in the pictures, and to this day, I think it was a pit bull in the picture. And to this day, my sons and I, we had pit bulls and stuff like that. Ours passed away now, but it was weird because I didn't think the pit bulls were in this world. Back then it was a fighting dog. That they made messed up.
Mm-hmm. What about just? You mentioned some places you would hang out, but in terms of stores, would you go to Paradise Suites or?
After football games, this is another funny story. After football, the players and the cheerleaders would go to Paradise Suites. Mm-hmm. And they had those malt shops where they made their own sodas. Mm-hmm. And everybody used to laugh at me. I say, I want a vanilla Coke. And that wasn't even nothing at that day.
Yeah. And
then people would all laugh at me, like Della Orlowski, the cheerleader, and Carl Skrezik and them guys. What is wrong with you? And then I found out later that, come to find out, that Coke did have a vanilla Coke.
Yeah.
Then there was A&P, was it? A&P store.
Yes.
My uncles and we all shopped there all the time. Then the Five and Dime store. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you a funny story about that, too, because I told you I took my grandmother shopping, and she didn't speak very good English. Mm-hmm. So I don't understand Polish either. And so I took her to the store, and she was buying some kind of clothing. And she kept picking it up. And a gentleman come up, tried to give us some hand, one of the salesmen. She says, shit 'em, wash 'em, shit 'em, wash 'em. And the guy come up and says, lady, if you shit 'em, you wash 'em. That's a true story. That's not. Wow. I remember that to this day. And then we never ate at Claudio's, stuff like that. That was even back then, or Mitchell's. That's another thing. Mm-hmm. Larry Lockers and I can still remember this. We never had any kind of fancy foods in our house. It was chicken, soup, stuff like that, when I lived with Bocce, my grandmother. Larry Lockwoods and I, we used to come over here on a bicycle and stuff in Mitchell's, behind Mitchell's door, the back door. That's where I had my first French fry. And they always put it in a bag. And, and then Larry would get a coffee. And I tell people this to this day. You know how you flip the coffees up now?
Yes.
With the little thing?
Tab.
Larry used to make a tab and then bend it over. I never seen that. And then all of a sudden I noticed when I started getting coffees to go, years later, they made those tabs that flipped up. I says, poor Larry, if he had a patent that, he'd be a millionaire. Larry Lockwoods is another one of my great friends that he was lost. He was scalloping here in Greenport, and he got hydrothermia, and he went in the hospital, and he passed away. And to this day, I swear to this, everybody says I'm not telling the truth, but Larry did call me the night he died. He says, Shute, you going to take care of me? I said, Larry, of course I'll take care of you. Why? He says, I'm not going to make it, I don't think. I says, Larry, you'll make it. You're miserable. And the good die young. You're miserable. And at the end, he says, you sure you're going to take care of me? I says, don't worry. Sonny and I'll take care of you. He says, what do you mean? That's Clarence Morris, the black kid I was telling you about.
Yeah.
He says, what do you mean? I said, Larry, there's only 2 handles on the garbage pail. That's the last thing I said to him. That bothers me to this day.
Yeah.
As far as racing, when I worked for South Hole Marine Center, we always had racing for the local kids and stuff like that. And the APBA come down. That's American Powerboat Association. My dad worked for the Avenue dealership. I worked for a Mercury dealership. So I used to race 36 cubic inch motors, which was a 25 Avenue, 1953 and 4. My dad would do the power heads and stuff, and all I did was help him with the boats. Because I was learning mechanics at that time, and I was working for Mike Morris at the time. I was a pretty good mechanic, but my dad was way ahead of me. So we built these motors up. We used to put castor oil in it, not regular oil. We used to sneak up to the Mattatuck Airport and buy airplane high-test fuel. And the motor would last one day of racing. He'd have to junk it and put it together. Well, Mike Morris was a Mercury dealer. His son ran Mercuries. He never beat me, ever. And he was always so mad. So the last race, well, the next year, the last race, year that I raced, my dad and I built a boat, and it was on a second story. And then all went along, it was in a bedroom, extra bed. All went along, we worked on the boat, got it ready, painted it and everything else, and I waxed the bottom of the boat like the skiers do with wax. We had to take the window out to take the boat. It was only a little Minimax boat. That was something for pop mechanics. We took it out and laid it out the window, got it all set up for the motors. That year I raced it. I gave my brother my other boat, which was a Jinx, which was a famous race boat that was made pop mechanics plans too, but I didn't make that boat. We didn't build. I bought that boat for years before, and Jimmy put an 18 horsepower Avenue on that boat, and I had a 25 all set up. People wouldn't understand it. It was a Green Hornet racing lower unit. It was for Scott Outwater. My dad adapted it. I won all the heats that were inside the harbor water there for the marina. But we always had a marathon race way out in the middle of the bay and come around a buoy and come back in. Well, I was coming back in and I dipped the boat. The motor flew off, hit me in the back of the helmet, cracked the helmet. And then Jimmy passed me and he won. That's my brother, Jimmy. And then my dad gave him all kinds of static because he, instead of stopping to help me and see if I was alive, he went and finished the race and beat me. That motor is still out there in a bay somewhere, rotting away. And I've been racing after that. And then I still have a replica motor of my dad's, and I took it apart, and I couldn't figure out the pistons on it had pins all the way around it, which is like you take a chisel and you put little marks all around the bottom side of the piston. And for years, I take it to people and I was showing them, what is this? What does this do? Why did my dad do this? Finally, there was an article in a magazine about Japan. They started pinning their pistons. And I talked to some old racers from, I go to a lot of shows and stuff, and I go to the antique race for inboards and outboards. Mm-hmm. And finally I met up with an old gentleman. He said what that would do, it would give more oil to the bottom of the piston, and it would go up to the rings and give you better compression for racing. Then there was a story I heard about my dad. I told you he was a motorcyclist. They didn't have a car till probably before I was born. They always had motorcycles. My mother had one too. Carlos de Jesus, Ronnie Tyler, that's another good friend of mine from Greenport here, was telling me yesterday, about my dad and his uncle. They were hopping up on a motorcycle. So they took the head off. They took there was a plate in between the head and the head gasket, and the block. My dad took it out, and he couldn't get he couldn't kick a start fast enough because it made so compression. And Ronnie Tyler told me his uncle told him that they put a rope on the handlebars and they pulled my dad with the motorcycle, and he popped the clutch and it took all the spokes out of the wheel. For a mechanic, that's a funny story.
Yeah.
You know? But I've done things like that too. Like I say, I raced motorcycles when I was younger too. That's probably why I can't walk today, because I was knee boat plus the motorcycles. And I raced against some of the best people in the country. Mm-hmm. And I was always last. I didn't have the best equipment. You know, it's like they were sponsored by Yamaha and Honda and stuff like that. And I just had Triumphs. Mm-hmm. So we were raced round track in Batavia, motocross. A good friend of mine, Andre Tassier, he was number 2 in Western New York. And after the race at the Buffalo Park, it was a winter race. He went on the ice, and there was a gentleman there with regular spikes for ice racing. And we didn't do that. We just raced on land and mud and stuff like that on motocross. Andre went on the ice, and he was going straight. He was like hopping between the seat and one side and then hop on the seat to the other side and standing on the bike with his 2 feet on the ice going down the ice. And people didn't believe me. Well, luckily at that time they had those big Super 8 cameras.
Yes.
And it's all on video. So I had to take these things to places when I go to shows. I have a little thing up on my computer, and I show these people. They don't believe it. You know, it's hard to believe a guy would do that. When I was at a show at the Hammondsport a few years ago, my wife and I, there was a boat show. And I said, I'd like to go to the Hammondsport Aviation Museum and the Motorcycle Museum. Let's go there. So I went there, and it was full of motorcycles, outside, inside. And I was going through it, and I seen Andre's style motorcycles. It's called a Triumph Matisse. That's one that oil goes all through the frames. And I walked up to the guy. I said, is that a Matisse? He says, not many people know about that motorcycle. I said, well, I know about it. I said, the oil went through the frames? He said, yes. I says, a friend of mine had one. He says, really? I says, that bike come from England like that. It was a special racer. I said, well, Andre was a famous racer in North Tonawanda. So I started talking to him, and he says, you know who I am? I says, no. He says, I'm one of the Robinson brothers. I said, Andre used to always beat us, and we could never figure out, how he could do it. I said, and then he says, I'm writing a book about, my career. I said, fine. I says, I got some movies and stuff of us. He said, I'd love to have them. So I took all my movies and made copies for him, and I had a bunch of photos, because I'm an amateur photographer. I have thousands of pictures even at home now. And I gave them to him, and then he made a book about his motorcycle career.
And can you talk about your grandfather was a blacksmith in the area?
Jim Chute was a blacksmith on Center Street and Third, and there was two blacksmiths in Greenport. People don't really realize this. And Paul, a blacksmith, and my grandfather were good friends. And I used to come down in the summertime after I got married and everybody in my family passed blacksmith. I used to talk to Paul a lot. And recently, I went here in Greenport and I found a eel spear that my grandfather made. And the lady told me, I didn't tell her who I was.
Mm-hmm.
So I said to her, I says, how much is this eel spear? She told me, then she gave me the story about, she said, her mother bought this off of Jim Chute. I says, fine. I didn't tell her I bought it. And I went back to my car, and I brought my book in. I had my grandfather's stuff. I've got the roll-top desk from the Chute house on Center Street,
Mm-hmm.
and I was going through it when I got it. There was a bunch of literature in there, and there's advertisements and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
because that stuff is lost.
Yes.
And I made copies of it, and I started, on one on the bottom it says, if you've welded it and it breaks, it'll last forever, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was funny advertisement. And I got a couple of his business cards and stuff. I went to this blacksmith shop here in Greenport now, the guy who has the shop, and I told him about it. I'm going to give him some pictures. He wants to hang on the wall of the Chute blacksmith.
Mm-hmm.
And also, one of the sons was a auto mechanic.
Yeah.
And when I was a kid, inside the blacksmith shop, I used to work there, and I used to do the bellows for my grandfather when I was younger. I mean, I didn't work there. We'd live in there. You go out there. You just come give me a hand,
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know. For years I was wondering what all that wood was in the blacksmith shop on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
So finally one day he took all the wood out and had to go down there with a shovel and clean all the grease and stuff on the floor and stuff. That was a pit. Well, one of the Chute, what was his name? Leander Chute.
Mm-hmm.
Leander Chute, he was a plumber here in Greenport, and he lives on Sterling. He used to live on Sterling Creek where the yacht club is now.
Yes.
That's his house.
Okay.
Right. And I have advertisements for him for towing, auto repair, 220 Center Street, Greenport. I never knew this. When I worked at the blacksmith shop, my grandfather had all these big, heavy-duty tools to bend metal and cut metal. I still have the compressor that was in that shop when they closed it. Somehow I got it. Don't ask me how it was. It was a compressor, and he was a welder too. He welded on a Nautilus. My grandfather, Jim Chute, he went across the ferry, and he welded on the Nautilus. And then we were at, when I was younger, we were over there, and believe it or not, his picture was on a mural on the wall when they tore it down now. I have a picture somewhere of him smoking his pipe, and me standing next to him with my plaid. That's another thing. I was famous for plaid shirts. I always had plaid shirts when I was a kid. Don't ask me why.
Yes.
And that was a part. He was over there on the week. He'd go over there and he'd come home on the weekends sometimes, and then he'd do his little business. And he was also something to do with the police department here in Greenport, because there's articles in the paper about him. And then he gave me my first shotgun. And if you look at the pictures in the museum, there's Ray Chute was a famous. This is the guy who worked with the Chute Shipyard. Mm-hmm. He was a famous duck hunter. And that's the gun that I have. Wow. I looked at the pictures, and the gentleman that wrote that article about the ducks, it's in the Maritime Museum. I gave him the copies of everything, and he put a big article in a book. He made famous decoys too. He was a very good hunter, and he always put his name on the bottom of the decoy. And I guess this gentleman got a hold of Patty and I. He was at the sale at the Catholic church here in Greenport. They have a yard sale or something every year, and he found 2 of the decoys there at that yard sale. And I think he's going to donate one or something to, not donate it, but loan it to the museum here.
Okay.
They contacted him.
Yes. I was wondering just, you mentioned going up to upstate New York, but was that something you were thinking about coming out of high school? And
Never. Matter of fact, we had an apartment here at the marina where I worked. The Southhold Marine Center. It was all set up. And then we never, like I say, we went up on a honeymoon, and my aunt talked me into go to General Motors. The first paycheck I made 3 times more than what my dad made after working 24 years. It was, why come, plus the benefits. We had nothing here. Up there, they give us Blue Cross Blue Shield, After 30 days, you're invested. It was a no-brainer. Then Coach Jackson called me into the office when I graduated high school, and he said I was available for a scholarship. I just had to do some extra work on my math and something like that. But I wasn't thinking. I wasn't thinking with I shouldn't say that. Okay. I got my wife pregnant.
oh, okay.
Sorry. So I knew I couldn't do it. So I says, look, I can't do it. So he gave it to another kid. And you noticed the story of Rudy on Notre Dame?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We had our Rudy in Greenport. His name was Franco Van Sickle. Always had practice. It reminds me of him to this day. We beat on him. He always come back. He was bruised. I was against him a lot of times. I said, I can't hit you. The coach used to say, you got to hit him. So we hit him. Well, he took the scholarship, and he become somewhere in Syracuse, New York. He passed away now, because I was a little bit of friends with him on Facebook just before he passed away. But he took the scholarship, and that was a good thing, because it's the way life is, I made a mistake. I made up my mistake by marrying her and, going on. When I went to General Motors, like I said, they give us insurance. That's why I stayed for sure. When I come back from my 50th high school reunion, I knew about it because I got a picture. The 1938 championship team, my dad was on the team. And then Dick Breeze, everybody knows Dick Breeze in this town. Well, he come and he had a bunch of pictures. And there was a picture in the auditorium at Greenport. That's how I found out my dad was on the thing. But he had the history of it. So I took a bunch of pictures and stuff like that. And I was number 23. He was number 24. All these years, it's really odd. And my daughter Patty put it on Facebook. And a good friend of ours called up and says, which one is Richie? We looked exactly the same. But I understand football's not going to be here anymore because they can't get enough children to play or boys to play.
Yeah.
And my theory is, being, like you say, how do you think Greenport's changed? I go to church. There's a lot of Spanish people in there and stuff like that. Spanish people all play soccer. So they can't get enough boys to football because Mattituck, Southall, it's a big soccer town now.
Yes.
That's my opinion only. That's the way football's a rough sport, so is soccer, but it's probably easier to put a field of boys out with soccer equipment than football equipment. It's real expensive.
Yes.
So it's helping the school out, actually, too. But it's hurting the legacy of Greenport.
Yes. But just coming back to Greenport today, a lot of the stores have changed. The only store I know is Preston's and Claudio's, but they're different owners. I think Preston's is one of the oldest places around. And I know my dad worked for Goldsmiths, and Goldsmiths just had their 100th anniversary of the same
ownership for one family.
Mm-hmm.
There's big articles in papers about it, stuff like that. And my race boat that I have now, actually, it's a 1967 or 57 Barber race boat, which is made by New Bern, North Carolina, Barber Boat Works. I joined the Barber Club, and I sent them pictures of my boat and stuff like this, and they said that they sent it back to me that I'm the only one that registered a Barber race boat. They made a lot of them for racing between New York and Albany and the races around, and they said that it had a bad batch of plywood on one side. I'm going to bring it to the Maritime Museum next year, and it was Skip Goldsmith, who just passed away. It was his graduation present from his father. And for 20 years I was after that boat because my dad put the afterplanes on the back. And I said to Skippy, I says, whenever you want to sell that, give me first refusal. He's okay. So maybe 15 years ago, he called me up. He says, Richie, he says, I want to sell the boat, but I don't want no money. He says, I want 5 collector motors. I said, what do you want? He says, for his advertisement for his business, he wants the fold-up outboards. They made them from 32 to 58, where you fold them up and put them in a case, put them in the back of a car. Wouldn't take any room. Well, I went and got the boat, gave him his motors, and then recently I knew about it. They had a big fire and burned up all the motors I gave him and all the history upstairs. My dad worked for Alberson's Goldsmiths, and Alberson was there. That was one of the Alberson brothers, I guess. And I got pictures of him and Mr. Alberson in the back machine shop. But as far as Greenport, the people, there's a lot of Spanish people here now. And like I say, you go in a store, there's nobody I know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's different. I don't know. Is it maybe because of the potato industry here? They brought we used to call them, they used to come every summer and work. And they had housing for them and stuff like that. And they go back to Puerto Rico and stuff like that.
Like the migrant workers?
Yeah, they were very, there was all kinds of migrant workers here when I was younger.
Yeah.
They used to walk past our house, like they were in the farms, and they would every weekend they would come into town, get their food and drink, liquors and stuff like that, and walk back to their. Most of the farmers had housing for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was a kid living with my grandmother, Bocce over there by Hub Garage, Moore's Woods and the woods across the street was my playground. Right, and I did a lot of stuff for Sills. That's the milk company. You probably don't even know it.
I don't know. I didn't.
Right.
I never heard of them.
Okay, all right. Sills was a milk place right across from the miniature golf course.
Oh, okay.
Right. I still collect all the bottles from Greenport. I got the Sills milk bottle, the Barth bottle.
Was there like Ashimamic milk?
I got an Ashimamic bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we lived at Cardboard City. Everybody lived at Cardboard City that lived in Greenport at one time, I think. That was government housing. They said they put it up in a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We lived on the end house. And right across the railroad tracks, there was a little store there. I don't remember the name of the store. But they made their own soda. And I got some of her bottles. Then life in Cardboard City was different. It was, a lot of people knew each other. The kids all hung around with each other and stuff like that. We had a famous kid there, was a Hanson that was a baseball player. And he went to the little leagues. Then he went to the minor leagues and stuff like that. But he never made it into the pros. I don't know what happened to him. He was a relative of ours, but I'm the black sheep of the family. I don't know anything about the family. I was at this Maritime Museum. People come up. They were my cousins. I haven't seen them in years, since they've been little babies, Of course, I live in Buffalo. I only come there a few times a year, so It's hard to keep up. Then my cousin Freddie, this is another funny story. I helped Uncle Fred, that's Tick Hansen, and Helen, his wife, my aunt. Our family members helped him build a house in South Hole on the water over there, Mill Creek area.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I married, I lost touch of the family. Really, I worked so hard. I only come back on the weekends to see my mom and dad, and I couldn't see a lot of relatives because I only had a week. It takes you a day to get here, a day to get back, so you only got a few days. So maybe 3 years ago, I said, I'm going to look up Freddie. So I went over to the house. I come here and I stayed at the campground at end of Moore's Lane, right? And I hopped on I bring my motor scooter with me on the back. I went to Freddie's house. I walked in, I yelled, Freddie, Freddie, where are you? The door was open. Nobody locked the houses. Even back then, we always had open houses. So I walked in, I yelled and screamed, nobody was around. So I went back to the campground, did my little tour, went to Orient Point and all that stuff, and seen all the stuff I wanted to see. I went back at night. I pulled in the driveway. A gentleman come out and yelled at me, what are you doing over there? I said, I'm looking for Freddie Hansen. He's not over there, he's here. So I go over there, talk to Freddie. I says, Freddie, I was at your house yesterday or this morning, and you weren't there. He says, I don't live there, I live here, because he had diabetes. He had his foot cut off. If you notice Freddie, he's riding his bicycle, three-wheel bicycle around town here. Everybody says they see him all the time on his bicycle. And my cousin Shirley, her daughter, bought the house next door. Her name is Carlene. Since he lost his leg, they had him move in with them so they take care of him because he's a diabetic and everything else. Her daughter and family moved over to the Freddie's house. So can you imagine me walking in yelling? I mean, I could have got shot. So every year I come back, I make sure they were at the museum thing here this weekend.
Okay.
They were with us all weekend, Freddie and everybody. If you seen him over there on his bicycle, that was him. He was a carpenter and he was a landscaper in Shelter Island until he lost his leg. But he was living at the house all these years, It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And can you give a little summary about the Wood Chute Shipyard and how your family made it to Greenport?
Like I said, I was a race boat crazy and stuff like that. Well, my first race boat was from Adrian DeVoe, which was a cousin in Greenport here. That was the Grosbauer family across from the 220 Center Street. Right across the street is the Grosbauer residence. Mm-hmm. Well, when he went he was a famous racer for boats in this area too. And he went in the Navy, and I lost track of him. Well, I've been a member of the Outboard Club for like 25 years, and I didn't ever really pay attention, but he lived in Arizona, and his sister called me up. He says, hey, Richie, I says, Adrian's looking for you. I says, I'm around. He could have contacted, I didn't go very far. He could have contacted Jimmy and stuff like that. He says, they're going to do an Ancestry.com thing. So I got a hold of him, and then we found out through our family come through Nova Scotia, not Ellis Island.
Ellis Island, yeah.
So Patty and I have been doing the research, and we found out that we're from the Nova Scotia town called Bear River, which is a town of stilts in the Bay of Fundy, which is when the water goes down, all the houses have to be on stilts. Well, they was famous up there, so I started joining the clubs up there, which is like they could send you a newsletter. And it said the Clarks, the Chutes, a lot of names from Greenport, or at the cemetery up there. They immigrated from there to Connecticut, or from the Chutes did it anyway. They went from there to Connecticut, then from Connecticut to Greenport. They did it on a summer vacation things. And then that's when they settled here. Well, I went to Nova Scotia last year. There's a chute road right through the town. And I met one of my, I don't know, distant cousins
Yes.
at the VFW, and she told me what to do, how to search all the town and stuff like that. And then on one of the newsletters, this is another funny story. The newsletter said they liked the chutes because they bred like rabbits. I guess there's I went to the cemetery up there. I got like 50 people in the cemetery. There was a few other, at least 3 of them that died at sea.
Mm-hmm.
So about 6 or 7. I went to the ancestry thing of Canada, which is in Bixby. And what it was, I sent him a letter ahead of time, a year ahead of time. She gives all the way, the generations all the way back to England and stuff like that, where we come from. And far as I know, Patty and I went through it. There was everybody either did something in the wood industry or the boating industry. There was only one school teacher, and he was from Ishwash, Connecticut. It's amazing. It was either blacksmiths or wood industry. When I say wood industry, that's up in Nova Scotia. They cut the trees down, they pull them down with his big ox.
Yes.
And then they service the wood for the marine industry. And then Richard Chute, he made that big boat, Whitehead and stuff like that. Marriott Whitehead.
Mm-hmm.
There was 3 big boats on his. If you look up his obituary, it's all in there. And that's how we started out with the boat industry. And we found out all this stuff. We didn't know any. I don't understand why my grandfather never even mentioned anything like that, or my dad.
But did you get to meet, you met your grandmother, but did you get to meet your grandfather?
Oh, yes.
You did, but he never said anything.
No.
Huh.
I mean, he was too business. I helped him in the blacksmith shop when I was a kid.
Okay.
Nobody ever talked about the Chute shipyard, and I never even met Leander Chute. I mean, I knew he was a family member, but nobody ever talked about him. My grandmother, like I said, she was deaf. It was hard to get along with her, but believe me, I think she had ears in the back of her head sometimes, because when I was living with her, you couldn't get, she read lips perfect.
Yes.
And there was no hand signaling with her. It was just lips.
Mm-hmm. But for the Wood Chute Shipyard, there also was just some of the history of it, the modesty.
Yeah. We found all this stuff out. Patty been doing research, and people have been helping us. Like I said, all those people, mostly from back articles of the Suffolk Times.
Oh, okay. Yes.
I mean, she every winter we go through the Suffolk Times, and I find little things, like somebody in New York City ordered a motor, and they brought the boat down and did that. They launched the boats, and I actually found 27 boats that were documented. I got 2 pages of other boats that I can't document because the Wood Chute was in business till 38 Hurricane. When it went down, he went to Huntington Station. There's another boatyard there called Chute in Bixby. Bixby is the guy with the shoe polish, and then he started that marina there. He built a lot of boats there. There was a famous architect that built boats, plans. William Atkins was a famous, very famous boat designer, and he was right next door. I know for sure that the only ones of boats that they built was the Hope, Faith, and Charity. And those boats, Mr. Atkins wanted to keep one of those boats, and they called it a boat designed like those 3 boats. It was called the Fore and Aft. And that's a very famous boat. It's in every book you can think of.
Yes.
And all the boats that I got that were from the Wood Chute and that are documented in it's in like a book for registry of boats. And if I can document it with the name of the boat and the owner, I'll put it in my book. The other boats that I know he built, but I can't document it. Like there's a boat in the Maritime Museum in Connecticut, Mystic, Connecticut, called a Mac 10. It was a famous rum runner boat. They never built that boat, but they pulled it out up here and rebuilt it after that. You know? But we thought they built it until we went to the museum and they told us everything about that, you know. Patty found the article about how they rebuilt it here.
Okay. Yes.
But it was not that. But rebuild, it's almost like restoring a whole, the ship,
Yes. But you still have Chute Marine in Niagara Falls still?
Yes. What it was, I worked for General Motors for 30 years, and I couldn't retire at 49 years old. I was 49 when I retired, and 50 in October, and 50 in November. You're too young to retire, so I went over to road trucking because I was a tractor-trailer driver. The first 25 years, I was a load-unload specialist. Was just, menial work. Just it was good money. When I become a tractor-trailer, they sent me to school and I passed the test for a tractor-trailer. I did that for the last 5 years. And when I retired, I was too young to retire, so I went over the road. I was driving for Mamo Transportation. I was driving all over the United States. Well, my wife called. I used to call my wife all the time. I says, "How you doing?" She says, "Not too good." She says, "I want you home." Truck driving is one of the worst businesses there is to be in because you're away from your family and stuff. So I quit that. And I still had itchings, So a friend of mine that I worked with, Frank, he says, "Why don't you buy that marina down there? Before the marina, I had a business called Mini Motor Mender. It was small engine repair and small outboards. And actually, my family and I, and a good friend, built the building ourselves. It was a cement building. That's how I learned the trades. I mean, like today, these kids today have no clue what's going on in life. They're always playing on their phones and stuff. When I worked at the South Hole Marine Center, I helped Johnny Haponic. That's a famous builder in town here. We built the scallop shop, and we built the hotel there. I mean, I wasn't a carpenter. I was 16, 17 years old. But we learned the trade. We helped them cut and stuff like that. We put the roof on. And this is a saying of his. "Hey, Johnny, is this okay?" He looked at it and said, "You can't say in my house, Shooty. Keep it going." And Larry and I, Gary Gagonis was one of the workers there, Mike Morris's son. We were the grunts. We did all the heavy work for him,
Yes.
I mean, he was just one man. We built all that stuff up there.
Wow.
Here's another story. The scallop shop, as you see it now, is just a normal building. But when they had it, the plan was to have a room up there for the marina people to go up there and relax and stuff like that. So he put a railing all the way around on the second story. So he says to me, he says, "Shoot," he said, "go over and paint that railing with the stuff." Okay. So I go up there, and I got a roller. I'm painting the bottom boards. All of a sudden, some guy's yelling and screaming at me. He was a fisherman that parked his car under the railing. All the drips went on this brand new car. And Mike Morris, he stuck up for me. He says, "You were not supposed to park there."
Yes.
He never paid the guy. And that's another experience I had there at that place. It's just unreal what you learn from working and making mistakes. Yes. You know how to correct things. Like now, when I start painting something, even at my place now, you just walk around, make sure nobody's around, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's safety too.
No, but it seemed like just learning all those skills early on.
I mean, we learned plumbing. We did everything over there. I can remember one time we had to clean out the cesspool thing.
Yes.
And that we all had to do crazy jobs over there. There's another story. Mike Morris, Jimmy reminded me, that's my brother Jimmy. All of us worked there. George, Jimmy, Joey, 4 brothers worked at that place. We were launching a boat, And I still do that at my marina today. We use wood rollers put them on the skids of the boats. Well, Mike had a 1940s Ford tractor. So we're launching a boat with the tractor, and like Larry's on one side and I'm on one side. You put these rollers under the skid, and the boat goes down. You take the roller from the front of the boat, back of the boat after, and put it in front. You got to keep just changing rollers. The brakes failed on the tractor. The whole tractor went under the water. That was something too. And there was a lot of experiences there that the kids today, there's probably jobs around here like the farming jobs. There's probably kids driving tractors and stuff like that and working in the grape industry. But like I heard, like the kids that tie up these boats and stuff, they're all learning a trade. You know, it's not just games and fun on phones and stuff like that. You know.
Yes.
But we learned a lot in this area. I mean, you learn how to fix on motors, motorcycles, cars. We learned everything on. Like I went to school in 1966 for Mercury. I got the Mercury training in Secaucus, New Jersey, with Larry, and we both of us got our certificates. And I met Mr. Kiekhofer. That's the head of Mercury Motors back then. He come in and give us a little, talk and took off. I mean, kids today, they would never get that kind of thing,
Shop class?
The shop class. Oh, yeah. Like Paul Stoutenberg, he was great.
Was he a shop teacher there?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And people people that live here don't even know this. This guy is famous.
For all the environment?
Yeah. If you go down past Goldsmiths, there's a White House. You go down, there's a big monument there, and you go along the water over the tracks. He has trails back there so you can see the ospreys and ducks.
Yes.
And my family didn't even know that was there. Like I took my little scooter, I found it when I was riding around,
Yes.
It's just amazing what that gentleman did. He was famous for conservationist, I guess you would call him.
Yes. No, but I think just lastly, I usually ask people what are your hopes for the future of Greenport and its community down the line? What would you hope
that they don't lose their maritime history. Keep it going. Like Preston's is noted all over the world. But these other shops on town now, like Whiskey Mike's, whatever it was.
The
Whiskey Wind.
Whiskey Wind.
Right.
Was that Myers?
They used to be Myers.
Yes.
That used to be our local hangout as kids and my whole family. Uncle Stanley, the gentleman that drowned, Vici, he was employees of, I guarantee you they built the roof, they paid for the cement, everything else of those buildings, our family. Because that was one bar our whole family went into all the time. I'm not a drinker.
Yes.
So I still go to the place and I order meals and stuff there. I was there 2 years ago with a friend of mine from Brooklyn. We had dinner, and a Greenport kid come in with a Greenport shirt on. I was talking to him. It just made me so proud that he was a football player, because, like I say, now there's no more football here. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. You don't know if it's going to come back or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just hope to keep the marine heritage going. I hope that carousel here was made in North Tonawanda. That's my hometown, from Herschel Spillman.
Yes.
Right? And if anybody is in this area ever goes to the North Tonawanda, Buffalo area, they got to make sure they go to that place. They still carve the horses like they did back in the 1900s.
Wow.
I'm still looking for a marine motor made by Herschel Spillman. I have a lot of motors, but not too many. But the thing is, I don't drink and don't smoke, and I just do. That's my thing.
Yeah.
My kids all know it.
It's
as a joke, I sent them. There was a thing on Facebook where there's a gentleman standing there, and he opens up the garage door, and it's full of just a mess. And it says to the kid, his son, he says, "Just think, this is all going to be yours someday." Yeah.
for all your...
Well, right now at the marina, there's one building that's a glass top with an aluminum bottom, and all the glass is cracked, and some of the foundation is going a little bit.
Yeah.
My plan is, well, we worked on it for 3 years for the electrical work, because that was the main electric place for our workshop. It goes underground. Well, I wanted to put it for a pole right to the building and eliminate the underground so I can tear that building down. I want to put a museum up. I have about 200 motors right now, all restored and running, except for two. One of them is a Mercury 3-cylinder from 1941 that they were experimenting with, and it broke the crank right in half. Well, I left it like that because I found an article from Parker Mechanics that talked about these motors, and that was in there. So, and the other one, like I told you, when I come back, after we stayed there for a few months and we first got married, my dad threw a Anzani outboard motor in my back trunk. I didn't even know it was there till I got back in the Buffalo area. That's hanging on the wall in the house. So I told the kids when I go, they can put that in with me in the casket.
But you continue to work on these motors and...
I'm all right. On the older engines, that's my forte. That's how I keep in business, as far as myself keeping busy, because I retired.
Yes.
You know what I mean? My son does all. But I get customers from our club as far away as Wisconsin come to my place to drop motors off.
Wow.
Well, the guy from Wisconsin, actually, he wouldn't have brought it all the way just to me, but his mother had a cottage on a lake. So he went in our book. We have everybody's addresses and numbers, and he found out that I lived there. He called up and he said, "Do you work on motors?" "Yeah, I own a marina here." So he brought it to me. It was a 35 Johnson. I got it running for him, and he took it to his mother's place, and he built a garage for it now. But I get guys coming like from Albany, Syracuse, bring older stuff to me because nobody will work on them anymore. And that's how I keep busy.
Yes.
Plus, I got my own stuff to do, too. I don't do any... That's one thing I will not do is paint. Or any kind of... But I'll get them running. A gentleman just had a 1934 boat, and he had looking for an electric start motor for it. Well, he found it, and nobody worked on it, so he brought it to me. I tore it all apart, got it running for him. And this guy is very rich. He says, "I want to have it done for the next year's show in Buffalo." I said, "Okay." He says, "I got it running." I called him up. I said, "The motor's running." He says, "You know anybody to restore it?" I said, "The only one I know that restores it the way you want is a gentleman by the name of Tom Tuwacker in Wisconsin, Fond du Lac." He says, I can't get it there. Can you get it there for me?" I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "I'll pay you a rental car, take it to Tom, I'll pay for your hotel and everything." So I took it to Tom, and then Tom restored it during the winter, and then he had somebody else pick it up. That motor got first place at the show, the motor and boat combination at the Grand Island show last year.
Wow.
So I just keep my hands into it, you know.
Yes.
I try to keep my stuff going to pay the bills. You know, my son does all that with the marina dockage, and we have 26 docks. It's a small marina, just 26 docks. And then he does all the IO work and the inboard work. I'll do the outboard work for the older engines, the newer stuff. The only thing, like the Yamahas, the 4-cycle Yamahas and the Hondas and that, I'll change the oils and then winterize them. That's it. Because we don't have the computers for that. If you want to be a Yamaha or Mercury dealer, it's going to cost you, $10,000.
It's like with all the new car engines.
Yeah. Everything's plug-in. Yeah. Everything is plug-in. We don't do that.
Yeah.
My son, he's old school. He's like me. He'll get them running. Even the ones with the computers, he can figure it out. But it's not that bad yet with boats, because I think this year they're doing like catalytic converters on boats and stuff like that. So it's going to take all us little guys out of business for that kind of stuff. But we have enough work to where freshwater is different. I'm still working on motors from 57 to 60s. people bringing fishing boats in,
Yes.
that they use every day.
Mm-hmm.
Around here, you don't see it. Matter of fact, last year I had my scooter here. I went down to Orient Point and at Orient Inlet there. There was a 1953 Johnson on the back of a boat. I had to stop and take a picture of it. And matter of fact, the guy was here at the Maritime Museum. He was talking about it. He said he had to put an old unit on it because it rusted out and stuff like that.
No, that's changed. But
Everything has changed.
yeah. No, but I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on today and share your story and all these memories. It was really great
I hope
to
it
hear.
helps you guys out. What do you do with these things? Do you save them for other people to see, or?
Yeah, it's saved as an archive.
Okay, good.
Well, I hope you enjoyed episode 209 with Walter Chute Jr. I want to thank you for listening to the Floyd Memorial Library podcast, and we'll see you next time.